like I stirred some stuff up then. I kind of
All right, let's get to the NBA now, because for the fourth time in the last 5 years, James Harden is switching teams. Sources tell Shams Charania that the Clippers are trading the 36-year-old point guard to Cleveland in exchange for their point guard, Darius Garland, and a second-round draft pick. Now, Harden averaged 25 points and 8 assists in 44 games with LA so far this season. Garland, though, he's only played 26 games for the Cavs, and the team went 13-13 in those games. All right, speaking of Shams, he's in the building once again. So you had said that Harden might be involved in something with us last night on SportsCenter. Why Cleveland, and how did this whole thing come together?
This came together because he had a mutual option in his contract for next season. That allowed both sides to come together the last few days and figure out what does the future look like. And is there a beneficial path forward, an outcome forward for both sides? Because James Harden wants to be in a win-now situation. He made that clear to the Clippers, and also somewhere where he has a longer-term future. Next season and beyond was not promised for him in LA. He viewed Cleveland as fitting both of those criteria as far as a win-now championship potential chance, as well as a longer-term future there. And for the Clippers, they get a player in Darius Garland for the now and being competitive now, but also for the future.
Yeah, 26.
James Harden, 36 years old, and like you just said, Michael, you have Darius Garland at the age of 26. It's very rare for two prolific star players to be traded with a 10-year age gap that we saw here today with James Harden and Darius Garland.
So Harden goes from the Clippers, and his teammate there was with, essentially Kawhi Leonard. Now he goes to play with Donovan Mitchell. What are you hearing about how that relationship might work out?
Nicole, I'm told that James Harden and Donovan Mitchell have already connected, and James Harden has spoken with Donovan Mitchell, and both seem very excited about this partnership. You think about two high-powered elite guards. James Harden has played with a plethora of elite players that score and have the ball in their hands throughout his whole NBA career. But let's look at what the Cavs have done over the last few days. Keon Ellis and Dennis Schroeder in the backcourt in that trade with the Kings. Yep. Today, they bring in James Harden. It's clear in Cleveland they want to put together the pieces around Donovan Mitchell to try to win a championship. The Clippers are playing more for the long run. The Cavaliers understand there's a finite moment that they have here over the next couple of years, 3 years, to try to win a championship with Donovan Mitchell at the helm. James Harden, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen. You got Max Strus coming back. They got other pieces. Jalen Tyson, who's emerged as a great player already in his career. They are in full championship mode. We've seen it with the pieces this week.
And if you're James Harden, you look at the landscape right now, you think you have a better chance of getting to the NBA Finals with the Cavs in the East than you do the Clippers in the West. And he doesn't have a ring. That's the one thing missing from his resume.
Okay, so this is just like one. We want to dig more into the James Harden situation. We'll get to Giannis in a little bit. More on Harden, though, now.
Yeah, as we mentioned, no stranger to trades, right? After being drafted by OKC and spending his first 3 seasons there with the Thunder, they traded him to the Rockets in 2012. He went on to play 9 seasons in Houston, and then the Rockets were the longest stop of his career because he was an all-star every season. He won an MVP, and then in 2021, he was traded to Brooklyn, where he hooked up with Kevin Durant. That reunion, though,
that was short-lived.
It didn't last long because after a year there, he gets traded to the Sixers. He reached the Eastern Conference semis with Philly twice, but that's as far as they could go in a very short-lived era. And then guess what? He was in Philly about as long as he was in Brooklyn, because in 2023 they moved Harden to the Clippers as part of a 3-team trade. Now, they made the playoffs in his first 2 seasons, but both were first-round exits. And now, traded again. This time, Clippers again, sending him to Cleveland. He's going to pair up with Donovan Mitchell, a Cavs team that's right now 5th in the Eastern Conference standings. All right, so Mon Shumpert joins us once again here on SportsCenter. So when I tell you that James Harden is going to Cleveland, what's the first thing that pops into your mind?
Well, the first thing that pops into my mind is you now have 2 ball-dominant guys pairing up again. And though they're high-powered, I've seen, sometimes it doesn't go as we think it's going to go when you have 2 ball-dominant guys. I think the one thing that I left out earlier when I was discussing James Harden with the potential of him going to the Cavs is how much better he makes your bigs. James Harden is tremendous in the pick and roll. He's tremendous with passing the ball to his big. He usually finds his favorite one that can catch lobs around the rim. That takes away a lot of the help options that you try and bring to him when he goes to his ISO. So he definitely adds something offensively. It's just the initial defensive hit that they're going to hit, I can't ignore it. And in the playoffs, that's what they need. That's what pushed them far. So it's going to be interesting to see what type of rhythm they can get in with that backcourt.
I get the impression you don't like the trade. Am I right in that?
I mean, for the initial response of it, I don't like it. But I understand that, James wants to get his money. I understand that this works out for both sides. So it ain't about me liking the trade anymore. Now I'm just looking at the realistic possibilities of how far they can go in the playoffs.
So on the other side of the things, I mean, obviously we just talked about this. The age difference between James Harden and Darius Garland is a decade. So the Clippers get younger. When you look at style of play there, how does Darius Garland fit in with Kawhi?
I really like it. I don't think it adds anything for right now. I don't see this team right away igniting and then making a huge playoff run. But I do see that getting somebody that's younger and getting somebody that can get downhill, get to his shot, a willing passer and willing to learn and willing to grow. I think Darius Garland, with some of the injury woes this season, he might have needed some fresh air. Who knows? But now that he's back in a rhythm, I think he's one of those exciting players that fits well in LA. So I'm excited to see how it goes. He's going to be playing next to Kawhi Leonard, who's been a proven champion as well as just a proven decision maker down the stretch, and he's going to grow a lot from being in that role.
All right, for those of you who just joined us as we approach the top of the hour here on SportsCenter, Briscoe and Eves joined by Amon Shumpert. Big news out of the NBA. James Harden going to Cleveland in exchange for Darius Garland and a second-round draft pick. Amon, let me ask you this. Let me go back to James Harden for a second, because as I mentioned, he's now switched teams 4 times in 5 years. And every place he's been, it was supposed to be something, and it fell short every single time. Now, look, I know that a lot of guys don't care so much about legacy, and I'm not sure how much James cares about how people perceive his career. But let me ask you this. From a player standpoint, when you think of James Harden's time in the league, it's almost, 16, 17 years now, how would you define his overall career?
Well, I'll say this. He's got a hell of a resume anyway. But even the little blemish that he doesn't have a championship, he can put some toothpaste on it and be all right, man. I think he could just, whatever little problems he got on there, just take it off. Don't worry about it. James Harden has scored the ball in an elite clip, and then he has developed a ISO dribble package for not himself, but for all young kids growing up. We talk about it all the time with Steph Curry shooting the amount of threes he does, how kids now think about the game as, I'm going to shoot first and then get to getting in the lane and showing you the rest of my game, but I'm going to start off with a jump shot. I think James has also changed the game in saying in the ISO package, you know what's coming. It's just what are you going to do, and then what's my chess move going to be to get out of it. He's as good in the ISO as anybody, and then off a pick and roll, making a big man way better. You see he always has a big man that he's making better. So I look at his career and I say it's a great career, well done whenever he decides to stop. But, I mean, of course, that shiny trophy next to your name is always going to do you
Everybody
right.
wants that. I mean,
Shiny trophy, that ring.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to the Hall of Fame. There's no question about that. But who doesn't want to play for a championship,
And again,
right?
all of these moves are happening ahead of the trade deadline, which is Thursday, 3 o'clock Eastern. This is just a small piece of the puzzle. There were other moves today. We're going to get to that in a little bit.
Appreciate you, brother.
Yes, sir.
All right, so as you might expect, the odds makers from DraftKings Sportsbook, they took notice of what happened with the trade. So the Cavs, they were 22-1 to win the title today. That was the 8th shortest odds. Now they're 12-1, tied with the Knicks for the 3rd shortest odds between the Thunder and the Nuggets. So as of right now, Vegas sees them as a toss-up between them and the Knicks potentially getting to the NBA Finals. Eves back here with you on SportsCenter as time ticks off the countdown clock to the NBA trade deadline. Several teams were making changes to their rosters today, including the Cavs. Sources telling Shams Charania that Cleveland is set to acquire James Harden from the Clippers in exchange for Darius Garland and a second-round draft pick. Now, this will be Harden's 6th team during his 17-year career, and it's the 4th time he switched teams in the last 5 years alone.
Celtics also made some moves. They have landed Nikola Vucevic in a trade with the Bulls. It's Vucevic in exchange for Anthony Simons and a second-round pick. Say what you want about positions in the NBA, but the Celtics have lacked experience when it comes to the man at center. There was also this news today. Jaren Jackson is on his way to Utah as part of an 8-player multi-pick trade between the Grizzlies and the Jazz. He's been averaging just shy of 20 points and 6 rebounds per game this season. You said his name a second ago, and then by the magic of TV, Shams
just pops up.
Shows back up again. Let's talk about the Grizzlies, because obviously we were expecting them to make moves. I think Ja has been at the top of that. What does the Jaren Jackson trade mean for Ja's future?
Yeah, Nicole, it's the strip down. It is the rebuild that we're seeing right now in Memphis. Last summer, they traded Desmond Bane for 4 first-round picks. Today, Jaren Jackson Jr. for 3 first-round picks, and Walter Clayton, who was a first-round pick last year in the draft. So now Ja Morant, they've been fielding interest, entertaining offers for the better part of the last month, and they're going to continue to do so between now and Thursday's NBA trade deadline. The one thing to keep an eye on, though, is they've got a ton of draft capital now. They've got a dozen picks. They've got as many first-round picks, swaps, seconds as any team in the league, including Oklahoma City and Brooklyn now. So what do they do with that moving forward? They also created a $28.8 million trade player exception, the largest in NBA history. The one element here to keep an eye on between now and the trade deadline is with Ja Morant, they are, I think, more willing to take on some bad salaries in a Ja Morant deal if it means getting back assets because of the flexibility they now have with Jaren Jackson and his big time money off their books.
So if you have that many draft picks and that much cap space for an exception, you can go out there around the draft, free agency period. Like, you have time to go out and do some things, right? All right, so again, the one guy everyone's been waiting for is Giannis.
The domino.
He is the domino.
Entire NBA
but all these other moves have sort of trickled out, and you didn't know if, like, maybe Giannis had to do one move for everyone to move. But where does he stand right now as we're, 48 hours from the trade deadline?
Giannis, the entire NBA, they are waiting to see what Milwaukee ownership and John Horst do at this deadline. Giannis Antetokounmpo has made it clear and communicated to those that need to know in Milwaukee, from my understanding, that he believes it's time for both sides to move on and to part ways. Now, Milwaukee's been sifting through offers, aggressive offers from teams. They've submitted some counter offers as well. Heat, Warriors, New York, Miami. Those are the teams that we're looking at here. But between now and Thursday, will an offer reach the plateau where Milwaukee can look and say, we're willing and ready to part with our 2-time MVP, or do you take it into the offseason? Giannis, to my understanding, is prepared either way this goes. But next summer, this upcoming summer, Giannis is going to be 1 year removed from entering free agency. That means he will have a lot of say-so and power in where he could end up.
And right now, you said this yesterday, it's like an amicable situation there right now with
they're
Giannis
cool.
and the team. They're cool.
But they just want to get
now
something.
When you're talking to teams, when you're talking to people around the NBA, do you get a sense of what people think will happen? Will he go now, or will it be next summer?
I think everyone can agree that the writing is on the wall here with the Bucks.
Oh, he's going to go at some
Giannis.
point.
And the question is just, will Milwaukee, their ownership, their front office, will they get there? Because, what you have to think about is, are we going to get better offers in the summer than we are going to get now? Now, you might marginally get maybe one extra first-round pick. You might end up getting a couple second-round picks in the offseason. But the second half of the year, Giannis will want to play. They are probably positioning toward, trying to position for the draft pick. So there's a lot of conflicting things right now internally there in Milwaukee.
I would think the rest of the league is like, man, would y'all go ahead and get it over with so we can get on the rest of our business as well?
Exactly.
Because everybody waiting on y'all.
Yep.
Right? Shams, appreciate you, man.
Then Anthony Davis. The Mavericks phone lines remain open on AD, even though he's out right now with a hand injury. Toronto and Atlanta have been two teams that have had interest over the course of the year. It remains to be seen whether either team can really cobble up the financial relief, the package of picks and young players to get a deal done. Could this be an opportunity to buy low potentially for a guy like AD? And then James Harden. This is really the stunning.
Joining me is our senior NBA insider, Shams Charania. Okay, Shams, I'm told you got some breaking news in the NBA. Let the people know.
BC, this is our first blockbuster of trade deadline week. Jaren Jackson Jr., the 2-time All-Star with the Memphis Grizzlies, former Defensive Player of the Year award winner. He is being traded to the Utah Jazz for a package that includes Walter Clayton Jr., the former collegiate star at Florida, some veteran players, but most importantly, 3 first-round draft picks. And for Utah, this represents a major swing now. They're going to team up Jaren Jackson Jr. with Lauri Markkanen, Keontae George, who's been a breakout star this year, Walker Kessler. This is a deep team that they've got building there. And for Memphis, it's clear. This signals a full rebuild. They've got a few very promising players. You think about Cedric Coward, Zach Edey. This is a young team that's growing. They moved Desmond Bane last summer. Now Jaren Jackson Jr. We know they've been in trade talks around Ja Morant. And this Grizzlies organization has 13 future first-round draft picks that ties them with Brooklyn and Oklahoma City for the next 7 years. And they also, in this process, created the largest trade exception in NBA history at $28.8 million, which gives them some flexibility over the next year. But this is a massive deal for Utah. We're starting to see them now. Danny Ainge, Ryan Smith, their owner, and co. This is a big move for the Jazz.
Okay, so now let's go back to Memphis, because all we've heard really out of Memphis was Ja Morant. What does this mean for Ja Morant and him being traded?
The Grizzlies' conversations around Ja Morant and entertaining offers is continuing around the league. There's multiple teams with interest in Ja Morant. We've seen with Desmond Bane and now with Jaren Jackson Jr. This is a Grizzlies organization that is prioritizing their young core. They had a few years of success here with Memphis, made some runs. This team looked like it had some promise, but they're now officially turning the page on this and stocking up with draft capital. But the Ja Morant trade conversations between now and Thursday's deadline are continuing to heat up and are continuing to on-go.
Okay, one of the things, all the other things that you also reported today was that the Clippers and the Cavaliers have been discussing a trade for James Harden. Where do we stand?
The Clippers.
Welcome back to SportsCenter. More breaking news. Our senior NBA insider, Shams Charania, back with us. Earlier at the top of the show, we talked about Memphis and the Jazz. Jaren Jackson going for picks and players. What more breaking news you got for us?
Another trade. This is a 3-team deal between Chicago, Minnesota, and Detroit. So the Pistons, the best team in the Eastern Conference so far this year, they're picking up the sharpshooter Kevin Huerter and a big man in Dario Saric from the Chicago Bulls. Jaden Ivey, the young guard who is going to be up for a new deal this offseason. He goes to the Bulls along with Mike Conley Jr. Mike Conley Jr., obviously longtime NBA player. He spent the last few years with the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves are essentially getting off of his salary and sending him to the Bulls. They're also sending a protected pick swap to the Pistons in this deal. So 3-team deal here. The Bulls get a couple of, one young guard, part of their core moving forward. Mike Conley. This does, though, around the league. I'm getting a ton of calls and texts. This raises questions about the futures of Kobe White, Ayo Dosunmu. There's a glut of guards now in Chicago, so how do the Bulls handle that? And then with Detroit, this is a big-time sharpshooter that they've got at the wings now with Kevin Huerter.
Meanwhile, the Pistons, best in the East, get more scoring with Huerter, who can fill it up.
And let's remember this. We know who the Minnesota Timberwolves are pursuing this week.
Yes.
Giannis Antetokounmpo. This deal gives the Minnesota Timberwolves even more tax savings, a little bit more flexibility, an open roster spot for the pursuit of what we know.
No, really interesting point here. Shams Charania with the very latest. Again, if more breaking news from the NBA happens in the hour, Shams will be right here. Let's get to more breaking news. Happy hour edition of SportsCenter. Brian Custer with you. And boy, it's been a busy day for Shams Charania here in the NBA trade deadline, which is Thursday. He's reporting Bulls trading Nikola Vucevic to the Celtics for Anthony Simons. Team also swapping second-round picks. Chicago also on a 3-trade team deal with Detroit, Minnesota. Bulls get Jaden Ivey, Mike Conley. Pistons land Kevin Huerter, Dario Saric, and the Timberwolves clear a bunch of cap space. And the Grizz are trading star forward Jaren Jackson Jr. to the Jazz. 8-player deal sends 3 future first-round draft picks to Memphis. Shams reporting the Grizz also listening to offers for Ja Morant. We bring in the NBA champ, our NBA analyst, Iman Shumpert, joining us here. So it seems like Ja Morant and a potential trade is coming. Salary aside, what team you think would be the best fit for Ja?
Salary aside, I think I like Ja Morant in Miami. It's something to do with the culture, something to do with playing fast. I like him over there, and if they can make it happen, I know you're going to have to give something up, but if you can get him to Minnesota, oh boy, him in the playoffs with Anthony Edwards feeling like he doesn't have to do all the creating all the time. I think you see a more excited Ja Morant come playoff time, and he needs something to really get him going again. And what better opportunity would you have than team up with somebody that, you know, has his own shoe as well, has his own all-star resume, and can come out here and shake things up? I think you could pair him up.
You know, another thing, Iman, James Harden seems the one out of L.A. Shams Charania is saying that Cleveland's seriously interested here. What do you make of that?
I think that you get better on offense if you end up bringing them. But with the exit of DeAndre Hunter and then you now losing Garland, I think that you get a step slower as far as the defensive backcourt. And when you started talking about the Cavs being successful in previous years, you always saw them hang their hat on the defensive end. So I understand, you know, I was talking earlier with Shanae, and we were just agreeing that it's high risk, high reward. If you get a James Harden that can come out here and figure out how to blend well with a Donovan Mitchell and not be as ball dominant, then you could be smiling at the end of this. But we've all seen what an unhappy James Harden does. We've seen the playoff woes that James Harden has gone through. And you have to think about that when you start thinking about him being 36. Even though he's playing well this year, he is 36. And if he couldn't do it in the previous years, what makes it any different late coming on and merging with the Cavs?
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. Look, Harden is averaging 25 points per game.